The unexpected adversary. The holographic display flickered as intelligence specialist Exarthal replayed the combat footage for the fifth time. His four eyes blinked in synchronized disbelief, chitinous fingers tapping nervously against the console. The battle recordings from Outpost Zetari 9 shouldn't have been possible. They defied all established military doctrine that had governed the Veldari coalition for 12 millennia. "You've been studying those recordings for 3 cycles," came the gravelly voice of Fleet Commander Nazcora. The imposing figure moved silently across the intelligence chamber despite her heavy exoskeleton. "Tell me something I don't already know about these humans." Exarthal's throat sacs pulsated with nervous energy. "Commander, these beings shouldn't be a threat. Their technology is primitive by our standards. Their ships lack proper quantum shielding. Their weapons are often kinetic rather than energy-based. And yet they've destroyed 7 outposts and disabled 3 dreadnoughts." Nazcora finished, mandibles clicking in irritation. "Explain." Exarthal gestured at the hologram, where human soldiers moved with alarming speed across a battlefield. "They don't fight like any species we've encountered. Watch this sequence again." The footage showed a squad of Veldari elite guards in perfect formation, their movements synchronized by the Hive tactical neural network that had made the coalition the dominant force in the galaxy. They advanced methodically toward a human position, energy shields forming an impenetrable geometric pattern. Then chaos erupted. Instead of retreating or fighting conventionally, the humans scattered in seemingly random directions. Some burrowed into the ground. Others used primitive propellant devices to launch themselves over the Veldari formation. 2 humans even played dead, only to detonate explosive devices when the Veldari passed. "There's no pattern," Exarthal explained. "Our tactical AIs can't predict their movements because they don't follow conventional logic. Each human seems to make individual decisions based on intuition." Nazcora's exoskeleton tensed. "Intuition is inefficient. Uncoordinated, it should make them easy to defeat." "That's what we thought," Exarthal agreed. "When we first encountered their ships at the edge of the Orion Spur, our analysts classified them as a Category 3 civilization at best. Their ships were asymmetrical, their formations haphazard. We assumed they would surrender immediately when confronted with superior force." The commander's compound eyes narrowed. "I remember the reports. Yet their response was unusual." Exarthal brought up another recording, the first diplomatic contact between the Veldari exploratory fleet and human representatives. The human captain had smiled when presented with surrender terms, not the submission grimace expected of an inferior species, but something far more disturbing: amusement. "You have 60 seconds to retreat from this sector," the human had said calmly. "We have no quarrel with you, but we will defend our territory." The Veldari diplomatic officer had been bewildered. "Your civilization is centuries behind ours. Your ships are primitive. Your weapons ineffective. Why would you not submit to the inevitable?" The human captain's expression had changed then, the smile vanishing. "Because humans don't surrender to bullies, no matter how technologically advanced they are." 50 seconds remaining. What happened next had shocked the coalition. The seemingly primitive human vessels had suddenly revealed hidden weapon systems, not energy-based as expected, but mass drivers that launched projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Simple physics turned these primitive weapons into devastatingly effective ship killers. They concealed their true capabilities, Nazcora observed. "That's just it, Commander," Exarthal said. "According to our intelligence, they didn't. Those weapons were exactly what our scans detected: kinetic mass drivers. We dismissed them as ineffective because energy weapons are clearly superior. But the humans used them in ways our tactical models never anticipated." Exarthal switched to another battle recording, this one from the Ta City engagement. "Look at their battlefield communications. Each unit operates with remarkable independence, yet somehow maintains strategic cohesion. They adapt to changing circumstances without central command." The footage showed human soldiers seemingly communicating through crude gestures and vocalizations, even when their communication systems were jammed. They reorganized spontaneously, creating effective defensive positions and counterattacks without apparent coordination. It's as if each human is a tactical computer. Thal continued. But instead of calculating optimal solutions based on established parameters, they improvise. Nazcora's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of deep disturbance. Improvisation is chaos. Chaos leads to defeat. That's what our entire military doctrine teaches, Thal agreed. But the humans thrive in chaos. They create it deliberately. He paused the footage where a human soldier had used a damaged Veldari weapon against its former owners. They take whatever is available and repurpose it. I've seen them convert our own communication beacons into explosive devices. They turned atmosphere regulators into poison gas dispensers. The commander moved closer to the holographic display, her exoskeleton creaking with tension. What have we learned about their homeworld? Perhaps there lies the explanation. Thal activated another display showing the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star. Earth, a death world by our standards. Extreme temperature variations, constantly shifting weather patterns, tectonic instability, biological diversity that borders on the chaotic. Their evolutionary path has been one of constant adaptation to unpredictable conditions. And their history. Thal's throat sacs darkened, the equivalent of a Veldari grimace. Disturbing, Commander. While we evolved toward unity and collective action, humans evolved through constant conflict. They'd fought each other over resources, territory, ideologies, even abstract concepts like honor and pride. Their recorded history is essentially a continuous series of wars interrupted by brief periods of peace. That should have destroyed them, Nazcora observed. By all logic, yes. But instead, it forged them into something terrifying. Thal brought up images of human historical battles. Primitive humans with metal weapons, humans with chemically propelled projectiles, humans with early atomic weapons. They'd been perfecting the art of killing each other for millennia. War isn't just something they do. It's embedded in their culture, their art, their entertainment, even their play activities. The commander studied the images with growing concern. You're suggesting that what we perceive as primitive technology is actually hyper-specialized for combat effectiveness. Thal finished. They don't develop technology for elegance or theoretical perfection. They develop it specifically to kill more efficiently. Another recording played. Human soldiers attacking a Veldari installation during a severe electromagnetic storm that disrupted advanced systems. While the Veldari troops were nearly paralyzed without their neural networks, the humans switched seamlessly to mechanical weapons and analog communication methods. They maintained backup systems for their backup systems, Thal explained. When one approach fails, they immediately switch to another. They have contingencies for contingencies. Nazcora was silent for a long moment, her compound eyes reflecting the holographic images of human warfare. The High Command believes this conflict will end quickly once we deploy our main battle fleets. You disagree. Thal's dorsal plates flattened in submission, but his voice remained firm. Commander, I believe we are gravely underestimating these humans. They don't fight like a Category 3 civilization. They don't fight like any civilization we've encountered. They're unpredictable, adaptable, and most concerning, they seem to actually enjoy combat. Enjoy. The concept appeared to disturb the commander deeply. Yes, observe their expressions during battle. Thal magnified the face of a human soldier. Despite being in the midst of a chaotic firefight, there was a fierce expression that couldn't be mistaken for fear. They call it adrenaline, a biochemical response that actually enhances their performance in dangerous situations. What should traumatize them instead energizes them. Nazcora turned away from the display, her posture rigid. Your recommendation, specialist. Thal hesitated, knowing his words might be interpreted as treasonous. "We should reconsider this conflict, Commander. The humans have offered peace terms that are not unreasonable. They ask only that we recognize their territorial sovereignty and cease expansion into their claimed systems. Capitulation to an inferior species would shatter the coalition's standing in the galaxy," Nazcora replied, though her tone lacked conviction. "Perhaps," Exarthal agreed, "but continuation of this conflict may reveal that they are not the inferior species we assumed them to be." The commander was silent for a long moment. "Prepare a full briefing for the High Command. Include all your analysis and these recordings. I will present your concerns personally." As she turned to leave, Exarthal spoke once more. "Commander, there's one more thing you should know. We've intercepted and translated some of their military communications. They have a concept they call asymmetric warfare, the idea that a technologically inferior force can defeat a superior one through unconventional tactics. A theoretical concept," Nazcora dismissed. "No, Commander." Exarthal's voice tightened. "It's their history. They've done it repeatedly to each other. And now, they're doing it to us." As the door sealed behind the commander, Exarthal returned to the holographic recordings. The faces of the human warriors stared back at him. Strange, soft creatures without exoskeletons or natural weapons. By all logic, they should have been easy prey for the Veldari coalition. Yet in their eyes, Exarthal saw something that the great military minds of the coalition had failed to recognize, a primal determination that transcended rational calculation. The humans didn't fight because their tactical algorithms told them victory was possible. They fought because something deeper, something embedded in their very DNA, refused to submit regardless of the odds. And that, Exarthal realized with growing dread, made them the most dangerous adversary the coalition had ever faced. The art of human warfare. Commander Telzer limped through the command center, his once pristine exoskeleton now scarred with battle damage. The younger officers stood at attention as he passed, their compound eyes tracking his movements with a mixture of respect and fear. 3 cycles ago, Telzer had led the most powerful battle group in the Veldari coalition. Now he commanded the remnants of a shattered fleet. "At ease," he growled, settling his bulk into the oversized command chair. "Status report on the human advance." Strategic Officer Mevhan approached, her movements stiff with tension. "The humans have established a defensive perimeter around Proxima Centauri. They're not advancing further into coalition space, but they've fortified every approach to their territory. Casualties from the Proxima engagement." Mevhan's throat sacs pulsated with distress. 78% of our forces, Commander. 4 dreadnoughts lost, 7 critically damaged. Over 200,000 warriors. Telzer raised a scared limb, silencing her. The chamber fell quiet, only the soft hum of life support systems breaking the silence. The High Command wants to know how it happened. How the most advanced military force in the galaxy was defeated by creatures who were using chemical rockets less than 2 centuries ago. He gestured to the tactical display, where the Battle of Proxima Centauri played out in miniature. The perfect Veldari formation approaching the human defenses, the textbook encirclement maneuver that should have crushed the inferior human fleet. "I've fought in 17 campaigns across the Orion Arm," Telzar said, his voice carrying to every corner of the command center. "I've subdued the crystalline hives of Deneb, pacified the sentient gas clouds of Betelgeuse. Never have I encountered an enemy like the humans." The holographic display shifted to close-up footage of human warriors boarding a Veldari cruiser. They moved with astonishing speed and aggression, using primitive weapons alongside advanced technology with equal effectiveness. "We approached Proxima Centauri with perfect tactical positioning," Telzar continued. "Our battle algorithms predicted a 99.7% chance of total victory. We outnumbered them 4-1. Our technology was superior in every measurable way." Mevhan's antennae twitched nervously, yet they anticipated our approach. "More than anticipated," Telzar corrected. "They manipulated it. Those seemingly primitive orbital platforms we dismissed as outdated defenses. They were bait. The humans wanted us to approach in standard formation. The display showed the moment when the Veldari fleet had committed to the attack. Suddenly, the primitive platforms had released thousands of tiny objects, barely larger than debris. Mines? A young officer asked. No, Telzar replied grimly. Soldiers. Human soldiers in nothing but sealed environment suits with maneuvering thrusters. While our sensors were focused on their fleet, these warriors attached themselves to our hull plating like parasites. They cut their way in using nothing more sophisticated than thermite charges and mechanical drills. The footage showed the terrifying results. Veldari warriors, conditioned to fight in organized units with mural support, suddenly facing individual human combatants within the confined spaces of their own ships. The humans moved unpredictably, using the ship's architecture against their designers, setting ambushes in maintenance tunnels, creating improvised weapons from shipboard equipment. One human saboteur reached the power distribution node on the dreadnought Inevitable Victory. Telzar continued. With nothing but a backpack of explosives, he disabled a vessel that cost more than the entire industrial output of 17 star systems. He gestured to another part of the display, where the main human fleet engaged the Veldari forces. Observe their formations, or rather, the lack thereof. Each ship captain appears to operate independently, yet somehow maintains strategic cohesion with the fleet. It's as if they share a tactical intuition without the need for neural networking, Mevhan observed. Precisely, Telzar agreed. When we jammed their communications, it didn't create the expected disarray. They switched to pre-arranged visual signals, light flashes, positioning. Even the waste heat from their engines formed patterns. When we adapted our jamming to block visual contact, they used gravitational wave pulses so subtle our sensors barely detected them. The tactical officer, Veclor, stepped forward. Commander, the Intelligence Directorate has completed its analysis of human historical records. I believe it may explain their unusual approach to warfare. At Telzar's nod, the display shifted to show images from Earth's history. Humans fighting with primitive weapons, humans in uniform formations, humans using early mechanized vehicles. While most species evolve from tribal conflicts to unified governance as technology advances, humans never fully abandon their tribal warfare mentality, Veclor explained. Instead, they incorporated it into increasingly complex military structures. They call it martial tradition, the preservation of combat techniques and philosophies across generations. The display showed humans practicing various combat forms, some using nothing but their bodies as weapons, others wielding primitive bladed implements in precisely choreographed movements. These aren't just historical reenactments, Veclor continued. They actively maintain these skills, even in an age of energy weapons and interstellar travel. Their elite warriors train in ancient combat forms alongside the most advanced tactical systems. Telzar's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. But why maintain outdated combat techniques? Redundancy, Mevhan realized aloud. If one system fails, they have backups spanning millennia of development. More than redundancy, Veclor corrected. Innovation. By maintaining these diverse approaches to combat, they create warriors who think differently from one another. Their military effectiveness doesn't come from uniformity but from diversity of thought and approach. The display shifted again, showing human entertainment media, simulated combat scenarios they called games, where participants controlled virtual warriors through complex tactical challenges. Their entire civilization is steeped in combat simulation, Veclor explained. From early development stages, humans engage in strategic and tactical thinking as entertainment. Even their non-warriors possess basic combat intuition that our dedicated soldiers must be trained to develop. Telzar studied the images with growing understanding. So when we encountered them, we weren't facing merely the human military, Veclor confirmed. We were facing the culmination of an entire species evolved through conflict, whose every cultural institution reinforces combat effectiveness, whose entertainment trains them for warfare from childhood, whose history provides them with countless models of asymmetric victory against superior forces. The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, Telzar spoke, and their willingness to sacrifice themselves. I watched human warriors deliberately detonate their own vessels when boarded, destroying themselves along with our boarding parties. They call it the ultimate sacrifice, Mevhan said quietly. Their cultural narratives are filled with stories of individuals who give their lives to save others. They don't just accept this concept, they celebrate it. Their highest honors are reserved for those who die protecting others. Telzar's exoskeleton creaked as he shifted uncomfortably. Such behavior defies rational analysis. That's precisely what makes them so dangerous, Veclor agreed. Our entire military doctrine is based on the assumption that all species value self-preservation above all else. Humans demonstrably do not. The display changed once more, showing the aftermath of the Battle of Proxima Centauri. The shattered remains of Veldari vessels drifted alongside destroyed human ships, devastation on both sides. There's something else, Mevhan added hesitantly. Something the Intelligence Directorate considers even more concerning than their combat capabilities. At Telzar's questioning gaze, she continued, we've analyzed their communications following the battle. They're not celebrating their victory, Commander. They're mourning their losses. Even after inflicting a devastating defeat on a technologically superior enemy, they take no pleasure in the killing itself. How is that concerning? Asked a young officer. Because it means they don't fight for the joy of conquest, Telzar realized aloud. They fight because they believe they must, and an enemy who fights from necessity rather than desire will accept any cost to achieve victory. For the first time in his long military career, Telzar felt something akin to respect for an adversary. Your terms are acceptable, Admiral Chen. I will transmit the formalized agreement immediately. As the transmission ended, the command center remained silent. Finally, Mevhan spoke. Commander, do you believe the High Command will accept this agreement? Telzar turned to face his officers. They will when they review my complete report on human warfare capabilities. This ceasefire isn't an act of mercy, it's a recognition of reality. We could devastate their worlds, destroy billions of their kind, but they would adapt, survive, and eventually rebuild. And then they would come for us, not with anger, but with the cold determination that makes them so formidable. He gestured to the tactical display once more, where the battle recordings continued to play. Remember what you've seen here. The humans aren't merely another spacefaring species. They're what happens when evolution creates an intelligence that thrives on overcoming challenges, that turns adaptation itself into an art form, that transforms warfare from a means of conquest into a crucible of innovation. As the officers dispersed to their stations, Telzar remained alone with the holographic images of the battle. He watched a recording of human soldiers fighting hand-to-hand against Veldari warriors twice their size, using nothing but simple bladed weapons and their own bodies. By all physical measures, they should have been easily defeated. Yet they moved with a fluid grace that spoke of thousands of years of refined combat techniques, finding weaknesses in the Veldari exoskeletons that the Coalition's own designers had never considered. In that moment, Telzar understood the true lesson of the human conflict. The greatest strength of the Veldari Coalition had always been its uniformity. Millions of warriors thinking as one, moving as one, fighting as one. But against the chaotic, creative, endlessly adaptive humans, that strength had become a critical weakness. The humans didn't defeat the Coalition despite their fractious history and diverse approaches to warfare. They won because of them. And in that realization lay a truth that would forever change how the galaxy viewed these strange, soft-skinned beings from an unremarkable yellow star. Humanity wasn't just another intelligent species that happened to be good at fighting. They were what happened when evolution itself went to war.